It's October 3rd, 2021. I've officially been working on this project for 6 years now, and I've got a lot of mature plants. Things are really starting to come together here. You see the nurseries over here. We got quite an extended nursery now, and pretty good butterfly garden there. This is one of my butterfly gardens, and some of my favorite plants in this yard. This right here is an El Dorado Texas sage. It's my favorite. I really love the silver color. This is a butterfly favorite. I mean, butterflies cannot get enough of this. It's an aster. It's called Greg's Mist Flower, and you can really see just a beautiful flower. And you know, there's hardly any butterflies out here this morning, but typically there's a lot. This is an Anacostia orchid. This thing's a monster. It's getting big. This is the, I needed a screen right here. You know, I live at home and I work at home. And so quite often I will be out in my yard, and I want to be out in my yard by myself without having to interact with people who might be out here on the street. And so this is a screen, and there is a section behind there where I can sit or walk or talk on the phone or whatever and kind of be by myself. Not kind of, really be by myself. And this is a part of it. You see there's a little gap right here. That Texas sage right there is a first year. It'll get that big, so it's going to be... And these are cannas. You know, the Anacostia orchid got to be such a monster. I measured it out and everything, but it's getting huge. I think I'm going to move the orchids out, or not the orchids. I'm going to move the canna lilies out a little bit next year so that they can be featured. So Texas sage is my favorite plant, one of the reasons I started this garden. But this is going to be my least favorite. So many people like this. This is a Rio Bravo Texas sage. It spreads out. It doesn't get very tall, but it's green. It just looks like green. It just kind of, it doesn't... There's nothing to it, so it's got to be my least favorite Texas sage. I think I don't know, I'll give it one more year, but it's got to go, I think. This is a huge Zexminia. One of my neighbors works at the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center, and she said that this is bigger than theirs. This one's huge. The material under the road, I planted it right on the edge of the curb, and the material under the road is road base, and it really likes those rocks. These here, some of my favorite flowers too. Sensitive briar. See that right there? If I touch it, the leaves will close, which is one of my favorite things ever. It's a plant that moves, ancient plant. You can also see some zinnias. Zinnias are our cut flowers, and I just kind of throw the seeds wherever in this yard, and I cut them so that we have some cut flowers. These are purple coneflowers here, echinacea, part of the edible immunity garden. And I do sometimes pull up the echinacea for my smoothies. But yeah, it's echinacea, purple coneflower. It's got these beautiful unique cone heads at the very end of the life cycle, but yeah, pretty cool. These are lantanas. Love these lantanas. These are butterfly magnets right here. And behind the lantanas, you can see our red esperanzas. This is my least favorite esperanzas because the color, but I gotta be honest with you, they bloom 3 times longer than the other esperanzas. It's crazy. They bloom a lot more. They attract hummingbirds and butterflies. And there's about a 2-week period every year where everything else is resting. And these red esperanzas are the only things in bloom. So it's kind of cool. This is also another patch of sensitive briar. I really like this plant. And it's found worldwide, but it's kind of rare. Not many people have it. Most people think it's a weed. So I have it as a ground cover here. This is mealy blue sage. The mealy blue sage is a typical spring bloomer. And it's, you know, right up front, just kind of pop out whenever spring comes. Before all this will go back to the ground during winter. Well, most of it. So this will come up and pop out, and beautiful little blue flowers. You can kind of see them over here. Beautiful little blue, purple blue. It's the camera's not doing the color justice. It's more blue than that, but it's pretty good. Another one of these esperanzas over here. This one's a little bit more red, and wow, I mean, it just blooms on till off, just can till can. It's always blooming. As soon as July hits, this thing's in bloom until October. These are Mexican feather grasses. And these Mexican feather grasses were all rescues. Every single one of these. I bought 3 of them, and 2 of them died. I pulled up one and brought it over here, but it died. So all of these were They would be in the middle of a landscape, and they were probably a volunteer. Nobody even recognized what they were, and I just pulled them up and planted them here. And of course, you can see if they were mowed, you wouldn't even be able to tell what they were. But these are all rescues. All of these guys here too, all rescues. So I say rescues. That's because they would have been mowed this tall for their entire life. They never would have gotten this big. More zinnias here. This screen, this is designed to be a screen from the north wind, and it is designed to protect my artichokes. I'm about to go get some artichokes next week, actually. This is an artichoke garden. I put 6 artichokes over here, and then I'll put 5 to 6 over there too. But yeah, this protects the artichokes from the north wind. Does a pretty good job. This is a fig. So this fig is a 4th year fig. I got a bare root fig, and it's a 4th year. It has not produced figs yet. It looks like we might get a couple this year, but probably not that many. Hopefully next year we'll start getting some. I can't believe it's taking this long. This is a Texas everbearing fig. So these are drainage holes. What used to happen is the water would come down this area right here and fill up, and then take all of my mulch and everything and run on down the street. So I put in this. The water used to run this way before all of the mulch and everything was built up. So I put in drainage areas, one right there, and one right here. And it's done a really good job of controlling the water. The material actually doesn't go that way anymore at all. All the water streams in this way, which is perfect. I want to keep the water on my property. So the water comes down here. There's a little inlet for the fig, so the fig will get some of that water over there. Then over here, this is the back side of the artichoke garden. You can kind of see that space I was talking about. This is the private little area that I have. I can sit out here and talk on the phone, or I can just if I need a break from work, I can come out here. And so that's what this screen is for. You can see it's kind of down a little bit, so the screen needs to be a little taller. Plus I've got the persimmon, the Texas persimmon growing into it. This is a majestic sage, and no, I'm sorry, not a majestic sage, a mystic spires sage. And this is a beautiful sage. It does better with a little bit of sage. I mean, it can take full sun, and it says full sun, but it does a little bit better with a little bit of shade here. And you can just see that just the beautiful flowers just laying over, and it just looks great. This is the color combination of the purple and the orange is just like a sunset. It's like a sunset over water. Look at that, just beautiful. The amount of pollinators over here is crazy. There's so many bees and butterflies and hummingbirds and just everything. So also on this side, back side, we have garlic chives. So I planted garlic chives at random areas in the yard. Well, I shouldn't say random, areas in the yard where there were deer sleeping. When I first moved in, there were deer that slept here in every night. We had a herd of deer in our yard, and they would eat whatever. So I heard they hated garlic chives, so I planted a bunch of garlic chives by seed, and once they got into 4-inch pots, I planted them wherever the deer, any place the deer slept, I just planted them. So I don't want the deer in my yard, and sure enough, it worked. It chased them out of the yard. So that's why there's 4 of them here, because this is where they used to lay. So they won't lay here anymore. There used to be one over there. They would lay here. They used to lay here. So this is my nursery. The shade nursery is against the fence here, and the front nursery is a full sun nursery. This is most of these are going to Houston for trying to build another hummingbird and butterfly xeric garden in there, but some of these are staying here. I lost some plants in the freeze and stuff like that. Some of these are also farmer's garden plants, so I take my kids to a farmer's garden every year, and what I do is I take cuttings and we sell the cuttings. But this is the misting system that I have. I've got a bunch of misters here, and I've also got some irrigation. You see the black irrigation line right there with a dripper on it. So I've got a combination, and these misters plug right into the black irrigation system. So I can get both mist and drip. I really honestly only need it when I have a whole bunch of stuff, and during the summertime. August is pretty brutal, but way too many plants in here, way too many plants. The only reason I have this many is because we're waiting for our neighbor in Houston to build his house. Once he builds his house, it's going to cast a shadow. Much of these, almost all these things are going in that shadow. So I've got some stuff over here that's going just outside the shadow. Got some stuff here that's going in the shadow. So the lilies over here and the variegated ginger. And so I really need him to build that house so that I can go ahead and finish this up. This is an artichoke that made it through the summer. Unbelievable. I didn't know that artichokes could make it through the summer here. But it did. Made it through the summer. And this one did too. Made it through the summer. So that's pretty excellent. And actually, part of my job today is trying to divide these pups out and see if I can't get about 6 more artichokes out of this guy. What else do we have in here? A lot of chili patines. I'm growing a fern garden in Houston. A lot of mountain laurels here. A lot of mountain laurels. And yeah, a lot of farmer's garden stuff. So this tree we lost in the freeze. This is a pineapple guava. And I say we lost it. It went back to the ground. I mean, it was 20 feet tall before. It was easily as tall as the house, all the way up to the roof. And so now that it's shorter, I think I'm going to keep it trimmed every year. I'm not going to let it get as big as it did last time. I'm going to keep it a little bit more trimmed, but still a little wary because, I mean, if we have another freeze like that, who says it's not going to go back to the ground again? And we didn't have any protection for our AC from the shade, or if we didn't have any shade protection for our AC this year. That's what I meant to say. This is a sedum. That's a volunteer, kind of. I was throwing it out, and it landed over here. And I thought, you know what, if that thing will grow there, and whatever, it did. So these are rare plants, apparently. They are called, I think they're called baby blue eyes, and they grow kind of like a hyacinth. Well, I identified one of them in my yard a few years back. There was just one, and I pulled it up and put it over here. And then I just started transplanting it. And actually, the first year I identified it because I mowed it. Right as I cut it, I went, wow, that's a pretty beautiful flower. Mowed it. Well, then you can see if it's mowed. You couldn't tell the difference if it's a grass or what. I couldn't tell. So I had to wait till the next year for it to bloom so that I could pull it up, identify it and pull it up, and I did. So after 3 years of cuttings and cuttings and cuttings and cuttings, I've got 15 or 16 of them here, quite a bit. There's a volunteer chili patine. I love the chili patines. I mean, if you need some spice, they're wonderful. They're good for the birds. They're ornamentals. They're edible. Yeah, all of those things. Growing a whole bunch of chili patines for the farmer's market here. Some of them will make it, some of them won't. Hopefully all of them make it. And yeah, I think that's all for the side garden, actually. Can't think of anything else. Sure is coming together after 6 years.